Om. गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री Gurave Namaha. We are looking at 500. We are in Vivek Chudamani, and we were looking at verse number 572 last week, and today we begin with 573. In the last verse, it was so told, Bandham cha moksham cha mrushaiva mudha buddhir gunam vastu nikalpayanti धृगावृत्तिं मेघकृतां यथारवौ यतोद्वया सङ्गचिदेकमक्षरम् बन्धं च मोक्षं च मृषा एव मूढाः. For the stupid, the bondage and liberation are the attributes. Attributes of what? Attributes can. Our problem begins from this presupposition that we are the mind and intellect. That's where our presupposition begins. We never consider ourselves to be the infinite essence, the infinite presence, the all-pervasive reality, the infinite reality. We don't conduct ourselves in daily life from that standpoint. Even when we approach the scriptures, we are looking as I have to understand. Who has to understand? Intellect has to understand. And intellect can never understand. It can understand the relative concepts, yes, but it cannot understand the one who is illuminating. It cannot understand that because of which the bondage, the idea of bondage, the idea of liberation are appearing in the intellect. What instigates the intellect to become active? Intellect is inert. Mind is inert, breath is inert, body is inert. What makes it activated? That can never be understood by the body, breath, mind, intellect. It can talk for donkey years, but it can never come to know. Understand this. So here teacher is telling him that for the stupid, for the mudha, bandham cha moksham cha mrusha eva is only a illusion of the intellect, and gunam vastuni kalpayanti, and the intellect only imagines it out of its ignorance. Intellect, it's not that intellect has ignorance. Intellect is the product of ignorance. Where is this sattva, rajas, tamas? It's in the intellect only. Can the intellect get beyond sattva? Not possible. It has to die. The mirror has to break for the reflection to go. The mind has has to become zero. What does zero, becoming zero mean, or being zero mean? Does it mean that I make the thoughts come to zero level in the mind? That is one way, but it is not going to last too long, because the nature of the mind and intellect is to think thoughts. So how long will you suppress it? You cannot suppress it also. See? In spite of thinking, we have to be that illuminating principle, because of which the concepts, the thoughts, the breath, the body, they are getting activated. Understand this. Look at your this body, breath, mind, intellect in the not as I. Look at something other. Then maybe we can come back to our essential nature. Otherwise, one and a half hour of satsang, yeah, wonderful, beautiful, fantastic, and after that, अरे चाय पकौड़े लेके आओ जरा. It doesn't work that way. Then liquid spirituality. Just when the vision is covered by the cloud, it is said that the sun is covered. Similarly, the ignorant go on projecting about the self unnecessarily, because Brahman is ever non-dual and unattached consciousness, one without a second and indestructible. So we should we not study scriptures then? Study, but don't get lost in them. Try to get to the principle that the scriptures are indicating. But if you are going into scholarism and by-hearting the shlokas and comparison of the various commentaries, you will lose the plot. If we are studying the scriptures and we have a teacher who teaches us, we are inspired also, but our approach is objective in nature, meaning we are keeping the self as an object to be experienced, and lifetimes will go. Then what has to be done? Within yourself, for yourself, you keep contemplating on who is this I? What is this essence? What is this illuminating factor because of which the mind and intellect get triggered, the body and breath are functioning? What is that? Keep contemplating on it. And as regards the world outside, have dispassion towards it. Don't get too lost in it. So when you interact with the world, be fully involved in the world, but with dispassion. And when you are thinking about yourself, think about yourself, but only as the essence, not as the body, breath, mind, intellect. Then we will, by grace, abide in our own essential nature, which is ever conscious, ever unattached. Last week I was telling, I think, that there is no attachment or detachment possible. And I gave the example of I is not attached to what they are illuminating. the mind not attached to the thoughts which are appearing within the mind, the self not attached to waking, dream, and sleep. It allows them to come and go. So take that position in and through your daily life. Then there will be no importance that you are meting out to any person, to any relationship, to any object, to any possession, to any past, or any future. Then the only time you can think about the self is in the now. You cannot think of the self in the past, nor you can think of the self in the future. It is possible only in this very moment. Otherwise, it's not possible. And the moment you come into the present moment, everything starts. Whatever is meant to happen starts happening. Whatever is not meant to happen will not happen. Now we come to the 573rd verse. Astiti pratyayo yascha. Astiti pratyayo yascha. Yascha nastiti vastuni. Yascha nastiti vastuni. Buddhereva gunavetau. Buddhereva gunavetau. Natu nityasya vastunaha. Natu nityasya vastunaha. अस्तीति प्रत्ययो यश्च यश्च नास्तीति वस्तुनि बुद्धेरेव गुणावेतौ न तु नित्यस्य वस्तुनः. Perception of presence or absence of a thing is the attribute of the intellect and not the eternally present self. Asti, something is, isness. Nasti, na asti, something is not. Asti is presence, nasti is absence. They are opposites. Sat, asat. Known, unknown. Asti is known, nasti is unknown. Absence. Presence and absence. Think, I'll show you. So, right now your eyes are looking at something. Now when they blink, now there is absence. There is nothing in front of your eyes. Again they open, again there is something. See? So objects are present to your eyes. And then when you blink, nothing is present in front of your eyes. Where is this happening? Is this, you say, I am seeing, I am not seeing. But actually, where is it happening? It's only happening at the eye level. You say, I am thinking and I am not thinking. But it's actually happening only at the thought level. Thoughts appear and then thoughts disappear. And before the next thought appears in the mind, there is absence of thought. So there is presence of thought and then there is absence of thought. Then there is presence of thought, then there is absence of thought, then there is presence of thought, then there is absence of thought. And this is how the mind functions. Continuously, presence of thought, absence of thought. Presence of thought, absence of thought. Go one step back. Presence of waking, absence of waking. Presence of dream, absence of dream. Think. So, is this happening to you? If you know this, right now I went through this whole process, do you know that this is happening to you? Yes, I know it is happening to me. Or this is happening. And where we make the mistake that it is happening to me, actually it is happening to the senses, it is happening to the mind, it is happening to the intellect. The three states of waking, dream and sleep, they are coming. Waking and dream are the presence and deep sleep is the absence. They are happening in the intellect, not in the self. Self has got nothing to do with it. Just like The day and night are happening on the earth. The sun has got nothing to do with it. He doesn't even know whether there is day and night. From the sun's point of view, which is of the nature of illumination, he doesn't have an iota of idea that there is a day getting created on the earth and there is a night getting created on the earth because of him, because of his presence. And then the sun starts saying, I am day and I am night. I am the presence, I am the absence. I am the light, I am the darkness. It's stupid. That much stupid is the self that I am saying and getting swayed by this presence and absence. This presence and absence is happening only at the instrument level, not at the conscious level. Recognize this. All we have to do is recognize. Nothing needs to be done. Only recognize. Discover this about yourself. And things will sort themselves out. Perception of presence or absence of a thing is the attribute of the intellect, not the eternally present self. Same thing. Buddhereva gunavetau natu nityasya vastunah. Buddhehe eva gunavetau. These are the attributes, the gunas of the intellect. It has these attributes. Do not even touch, do not even scrape, do not make an impact, do not have any existence from the point of the infinite consciousness. I am rich, I am poor, I am beautiful, I am ugly, I am intelligent, I am stupid, I am in bondage, I am liberated, I am a yogi, I am a devotee, I am a seeker, I am a guru. I know all these scriptures, I don't know anything. Self has got nothing to do with it. We have created our own, because we have accepted ourselves to be the body, we have created a journey for ourselves. So now that we know, somewhere, somehow, our journey must have started. So now recognize at this very moment that you are the one who is untouched by the presence or absence, who is untouched by the presence of the waking and dream and the absence of theirs, who is untouched by the presence of thoughts or the absence of thoughts, who is untouched by the in-breath or the out-breath, who is untouched at all the sensory levels by the presence of the stimuli or the absence of stimuli. So who are you? The untouched one. You are the untouched one. And that untouched one is the illuminator. His nature is that of illumination. It doesn't need a thought to confirm its presence. The self does not need a thought to confirm its presence. I think, therefore I am. Nope. I am, therefore thinking happens. Whether thinking happens or doesn't happen, it does not make an impact on the self. See, this is contemplation. Just talking about it or listening to it, you are there. Where you were always. All that the satsang did was remove the clutter from the mind. Temporarily may it be, but one day it will click. This is how we create phobias. Like when we were kids, I don't like bitter gourd, I don't like bitter gourd, I don't like bitter gourd. And many children don't like bitter gourd when they grow up. But even though we did not like bitter gourd, our mum gave only one piece. But we had to, it was so bitter, but we had to eat and then get up. Otherwise, we can sit at the table for 2 hours. She didn't care. We had to finish it. You drink, you chew it, you swallow it, you take it in the mouth and gulp it down with with water. She didn't care, but it has to go inside. So today, what has happened over years then? That issue that bitter gourd is bad, it went away. Now we like it. Not like it, it's okay. There's no likes, dislikes, but it is okay, it's healthy. So same way, wherever you are, whatever positions you are, whatever professions you are in, there must have been so many difficulties, so many challenges, but you kept at it, 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 kept working towards it. देर आए दुरुस्त आए पर आ गया, and eventually you became proficient in the field that you chose for you were attracted to, and you keep working towards it because it's a subject matter as regards the world, and any subject matter in the world is not perfect. There is always improvement possible there. And because you keep working towards perfection in your profession or in your health or finances or whatever, someday by God's grace that idea of perfection comes closer to the heart, that we want to be perfect. See? And then how can I be perfect? Then we are told we are perfect, we were never imperfect. See? We have to just discover that. Because the sun is covered by the clouds doesn't mean that the sun is not there. You are seeing the clouds only because of the sunlight. You are seeing the thoughts, you are having experiences, you are having waking and dream only because of the light of the self. And that I am. This should be the tumtuni at the back of our mind. अस्तीति प्रत्ययो यश्च नास्तीति वस्तुनि बुद्धेरेव गुणावेतौ न तु नित्यस्य वस्तुनः न तु नित्यस्य वस्तुनः. Nitya, that nitya vastu, the attributes cannot be of that eternal essence, that eternal principle. Natu nityasya vastuna. Space has got no qualities. Well, okay, it has qualities because it has got sound is its attribute. It has its, we can't come to that point with space. But as regards shape, as regards taste, as regards smell, as regards touch, all these are absent in the space. only sound is. And in consciousness, even sound is absent. So, the absolute can never have any qualities. Whatever, wherever there is a quality, it has to be specific. That substance is an aspect of the relativity, not of the absolute. In absolute, there are no attributes, no qualities. So, start contemplating. I hate this. Oh, you got attached to a quality. I love this. I like this. I dislike that. Person becomes, when you study the scriptures, you become so alert. But the mistake we make because of our objective approach is we become alert about shortcoming of others. We must become alert about shortcoming of ourselves, where we are falling short in our own assessment. Leave the world alone. Each one is sufficiently miserable. Assess yourself. So, the truth, the infinite reality, cannot be told as asti, nor can it be told as na asti. It cannot be told as presence, nor can it be told as absence. It is beyond both presence and absence. Know it in this way, the teacher tells the student. अतस्तौ मायया क्लुप्तौ अतस्तौ मायया क्लुप्तौ बन्धमोक्षौ चात्मनि बन्धमोक्षौ न चात्मनि निष्कले निष्क्रिये शान्ते निष्कले निष्क्रिये शान्ते निरवद्ये निरञ्जने निरवद्ये निरञ्जने अद्वितीये परे तत्त्वे अद्वितीये परे तत्त्वे व्योम व्योमवत्कल्पना कुतः व्योमवत्कल्पना कुतः अतस्तौ मायया क्लुप्तौ बन्धमोक्षौ न चात्मनि निष्कले निष्क्रिये शान्ते निरवद्ये निरञ्जने अद्वितीये परे तत्त्वे व्योमवत्कल्पना कुतः. Therefore, bondage and liberation are imaginary projections on the self by the Maya. Let's read first. Essentially, they are not, because how can there be such a projection on the non-dual, partless, actionless, peaceful, pure, uncontaminated Supreme Self? So, atastau mayaya kluptau bandha mokshau cha na chatmani. Bondage and liberation are superimposed on the self by the Maya. So, what is Maya in our case? It is our mind. The mind has superimposed the bondage concept or idea of bondage and liberation on the self. Who says, how do you talk about bondage? I am miserable, I am in bondage, I want to liberate, I want to realize, I want to be free, I am a devotee, I am a Sharanagati, I want Nirvikalpa Samadhi. I want. So you only first created the problem, which was that you got the Maya felt that it is the I felt that it is in bondage, and now it seeks liberation from the bondage. But truly speaking, in the self there is neither bondage nor liberation. In the light is saying, the daylight is saying, I can express myself only from morning 6 o'clock till 7 o'clock at night. Rest of the time, the darkness takes over me. I want liberation. And what will be liberation for the light? To go back to the sun. You see? We have only created because the self, which can never get identified with body, breath, mind, intellect, it has never got identified. It is not possible only, this identification. But this is your experience and a seeker's experience, because that is how he communicates, that is how he talks. I am the body, this is my mother, this is my father, these are my children, this is my job, this is my house, this is my investments. Right now I'm awake, I am feeling sleepy, I have to go to sleep. I am awake now. I am hungry, I am thirsty, I am rich, I am poor, I am. We have got identified with every damn thing. Only on. And the first identification that we created, because understand, this I thought, because we are saying, no, I am hungry. Hunger is also in the mind. And this I is also another aspect of the mind. Mind functions in duality. And what is the duality there in mind, how it functions? It is subject and object relationship. That is what mind is. Mind cannot be only subject. Then mind will collapse. And mind cannot be only object. Mind will collapse. Mind is a building standing on three pillars, three legs: subject, object, and instrument of knowledge. Subject is the I, object is whatever the I is associating with, and how does it associate? With the instruments of knowledge. And where is this? The subject, object, and the instrument of knowledge. Where are they? Where are they? How do you know them? Can you know them without a thought? Can you know the object without a thought of the object? Can you know the instruments without the thought of instruments? Yes, I can come to know the I without the thought of I, but we haven't got there yet. First understand this. And where is this interaction between the subject and object going on? It's happening in the mind. Go look for the mind and come back and show it to someone where the mind is. You can't find it. If you inquire, it will vanish. If you inquire into the mind, not the thoughts, if you inquire into the substratum of the thoughts, where the subject, object, and instrument of knowledge is appearing as a thought, what is that space where this is appearing and disappearing? The mind will dissolve. See? And another way, when we looked at it, we looked at it as mind is nothing but consciousness, wave is nothing but water. On the water, there is a projection of the wave. Similarly, on the on the waters of consciousness, there is a projection of subject, object, and instrument. But where is this subject, object, and instrument? It's existing in its own absence because it's the play of the Maya. It's appearing as if, and that as if we have taken to be serious. The husband or wife, they are appearing as if there is no person, there is nothing called husband or wife. There is only man or woman. Then where is husband and wife? Only a figment of imagination, only a projection in our mind. If we can understand this example of husband and wife, that it's only a projection, only man and woman are there, go one step back. Only the self is there, and in there is a projection of the subject and the object within that infinite I. See? Essentially, they are not. They are not. Who is not? The bondage and liberation are not. Because how can there be such a projection on the non-dual, partless, nishkale, nishkriye, shante, niravadye, niranjane? Nishkale, without any parts, nishkriye, without any activity, shante, absolutely peaceful, niravadye, what do you call? निरवध्य का क्या मीनिंग है? निरंजने, anjan is collyrium, niranjan where there is no contamination possible. See? अद्वितीय परे तत्वे, अद्वितीय,
perhaps indestructible, Swami.
indestructible,
Niravadya is perhaps
indestructible. Okay.
Perhaps, I don't know.
Okay. Advitiye pare tattve. It is the non-dual reality. Pare tattve. It is a transcendental principle. Non-dual transcendental principle. Vyomavat kalpana kutaha. Vyomavat. Like space is transcendental to all names and forms. Like that. We imagine there is inside space, outside space. We imagine there are directions in the space, north, south, east, west, and so on. But from space point of view, there is no south, east, west, north. From the space point of view, there is no inside and outside. We have projected on it. Same way, on this conscious space that I am, essentially, there is no, nothing can stick to it. This bondage and liberation are mere projections superimposed on this infinite principle that I am. Now, the choice is yours. Option is given. Whether you accept it or you don't accept it. If you accept it, there is a possibility that you will realize it. If you don't accept it and you find faults with it, that I think this person is talking from the top of his hat, or you keep speaking to yourself in your mind that but it is what? Bondage liberation is a figment of imagination. How can that be? and you doubt what is being told here, then remain miserable, continue the misery. Why are we studying the scriptures or coming to the satsang? Not to remain in misery. We want to go beyond misery and happiness. We want to be that Paramananda principle. Infinite bliss, unadulterated, uncorrupted, continuous, without any doubt. न निरोधो न चोत्पत्तिः, न निरोधो न चोत्पत्तिः, न बद्धो न च साधकः, न बद्धो न च साधकः, न मुमुक्षुर्न वै मुक्तः, न मुमुक्षुर्न वै मुक्तः, इत्येषा परमार्थता, इत्येषा परमार्थता। न निरोधो न चोत्पत्तिः, न बद्धो न च साधकः, न मुमुक्षुर्न वै मुक्तः, इत्येषा परमार्थता। Therefore, the truth is nothing is ever destroyed, nor is anything created. Neither there is bondage, nor is there a seeker, nor seeking of liberation, nor liberation. तो बेवकूफ़ बना रहे हैं क्या हमको? Are you taking us for a ride? That there is no bondage, there is no liberation, there is no seeker, there is no seeking, there is no seeking of liberation, and there is no liberation. Then why did we spend so many months studying Vivek Chudamani? Why did we study?
Only to realize it now.
Huh?
Only to realize it now.
It says no realization. There is no realization is not possible. So the question is, why did we study the scripture? Can you stay at this moment, wherever you are, whatever you are? Can you stay without doing anything?
No.
We are propelled to act, propelled to think, propelled to do at the equipment level, body, breath, mind, intellect. Thoughts keep coming, breath keeps coming, senses are seeing, hearing, touching, feeling, tasting, body is acting, hunger is coming. We can't stop it. So if something has to be then done, might as well do something like this, which is study, expose yourself to the scriptures. Why? If nothing has to be achieved, then why should I expose? Time pass. Time pass. When you learn to while away your time without any purpose, you are realized. But we always have there is a key desire inside us which propels us to do something or the other. The desire to give a lecture, the desire to listen to a lecture is bringing us together. If it is a desire. But if it is, okay, chalo, Wednesday, what to do? Wednesday satsang. Every Wednesday I have to give satsang. Give, finished. How does it matter if 2 people are there, 5 people are there, 10 people? It does not matter. Do the job and go. Next what? Watch a movie. Next what? Have lunch, dinner. Next what? Go to sleep. Something will keep happening whether you like it or you don't like, whether you desire or you don't desire. Something will keep happening. The problem begins when we own what is happening. The moment ownership comes, bondage and liberation become valid. The individuality comes into existence the moment we take the ownership. See? So therefore truth is nothing. The truth is, and in the truth nothing is ever created, nothing is ever destroyed. Truth is always truth. Space is always space. If the seasons are coming, days and nights are coming and going, nothing is happening to the space. Same way, the conscious space that I am, the Chidakash, nothing is happening to the Chidakash, the illuminating principle. Let the waker, dreamer, sleeper come and go. Let the seeing, hearing, touching, feeling, tasting, thinking come and go. Nothing. Let the roles come and play. Let there be health and disease. Let there be corona or no corona. Does not matter to the self. Self is immaculate, untouched. Nothing can corrupt it. And that I am. Always, ever and ever and ever and ever. I never fallen down from that immaculateness. And if you are feeling at this moment that you are not realized, then it's only the imagination of the mind. Stop thinking you are the mind. You are there. Stop accepting you are the mind. Interact with the mind only as you interact with an equipment. You interact with the car. You don't say I am the car. You use it and you discard it. Mind is the same. Use it. Don't succumb to it. Don't identify with it. Don't become the... imagine if that was the case. If I sit inside the car, I am the car. Alright? Then I want to go to sleep with the car. If something happens to the car, then I am miserable. Many people are. If someone scratches their car, gone. But just like we take the car, reach a destination, get out of the car and go about doing whatever we have to do. Same way, use this body, use this breath, use this mind, use these thoughts, use this intellect. To come to this conclusion. That they are all only equipments to be used. They are existing in their own absence. All activity is only at the equipment level, not at the self level. Self is neither active nor non-active. Self is as it is. It's beyond, it's transcendental to activity and inactivity. It's beyond, transcendental to presence and absence. Recognize this about ourselves. And in this manner, so that immaculate Brahman, that Advitiya Tattva, I am, and Brahman is not only I have come to Brahman and the equipment continue to do. No. Once you know you are Brahman, then everything is Brahman. Everything is that non-dual reality. From that point, you can't even use the word everything is. It is that word everything is only for the benefit of the seeker, the one who feels he is bound, the one who feels he is not liberated yet. For his sake, these words like everything, all pervasiveness, immaculate, all words are only for the benefit of the seeker. Brahman does not require, the reality does not require the support of the words. Words come and go because reality is there. So all that there is nothing but that infinite, non-dual Brahman or reality, which is never born, never dies, which has never become a seeker, which has never got liberated, which has never, there is no seeking of liberation also, as it says here, na mumukshur na vai muktaha. So there is no na cha sadhaka, there is no seeker, na mumukshu, no the seeking liberation, vai muktaha, and there is no liberation also. So should we stop seeking liberation? If you can stop seeking liberation and remain in this poise for ever and ever and ever and ever, fantastic. Try, go ahead. If not, keep coming back to these verses again and again, keep contemplating again and again. Seeking liberation, do you stop thinking of sleep, or the thinking about sleep stops by itself every night? You're thinking of sleep, you get into your pajamas, get into your bed, you put off the light, you lie down on the bed, close your eyes, and so do you stop thinking, or thinking stops by itself? Do you eat food and say, now I am satisfied, or satisfaction happens by itself? Hunger gets satiated by itself when the food goes in. And recognition of that fact is then put in words. So just like when we go to sleep, we are at one ment with the sleep. So the last thought automatically dissolves itself. Same way, we seek the liberation, but we come to this point where even the thought of liberation gets dissolved from our mind. Remember, these words of final advice are not being told to a novice. These final sets of verses are being told to a person who has attentively listened to the entire Vivek Chudamani, and we saw what he said as regards his experience. And then to that student, these final words of advice were given by the teacher. Sorry. So understand the context in which these verses are also being told. But these the verses of these final advice, they are wonderful. Each one can be a meditative, can lead to meditation. Now, the next verse says, Sakala nigamachu Sakala nigamachuda swanta Sakala nigamachuda swanta siddhanta rupam paramidamati guhyam darshitam te mayadya apagataka apagatakalidosham kama nirmukta buddhim स्वसुतवद सुकृत्वां भावयित्वा मुमुक्षुं सकल निगमचूडा स्वान्त सिद्धान्त रूपं परमिदमति गुह्यं दर्शितं ते मयाद्य अपगतकलिदोषं काम निर्मुक्त बुद्धिं स्वसुतवद कृत्वां भावयित्वा मुमुक्षुम्. O my dear son, I have revealed to you the essence of all the scriptures, which is the crest jewel of the supreme secret by me to you, as you are free from the shortcomings of the Kali Yuga and the desires, etc., being the seeker of liberation, considering you as my own son. So, O my dear son, I have revealed to you the essence of all the scriptures. And what is this scripture? Vivek Chudamani, the crest jewel of discrimination. And what is the discrimination between the truth and the untruth, the permanent and the impermanent? Sat and Asat, Chit and Achit. And this is the Sakala Niga Chuda Swanta Siddhanta Rupam Paramidam Ati Guhyam Darshitam Te Mayadya. And Ati Guhyam, this is the great secret, the knowledge which has been meted out to you by me, O my dear one. And what will happen? And what is the result of this knowledge? It is apagata kalidosham kama nirmukta buddhim. Apagata kalidosham, that the dosha, the shortcomings of Kali Yuga. This is the period of Kali Yuga that we are going. So the shortcomings of the Kali Yuga you will transcend. And what are they? What are the shortcomings of the Kali Yuga? They are kama, desires, nirmukta buddhim, and in kamani. Okay, so free your mind, buddhi, free your intellect from the desires, etc. What could be other than desire? It could be the doership, the enjoyership, the ownership. That I am not the infinite one. See, desire can be only for the objects of the world. You can never have a desire for self. You are having a desire for self at this moment because you are feeling that self is an object to be gained. You are considering it as an object, therefore there is a desire for liberation. Otherwise, understand one thing, desire is always for something that is separate from you. So I have a desire for water. I can pick up the bottle and drink water. I desire to talk to, give a call. So I can call you and give you a call. I desire for laptop. I can have desire for sleep. I can have desire for remaining awake or be in imagination. But I can never have desire for self. Desire in its womb has a presupposition that it is for something other than the self. How can I desire I? How can I desire I? So our buddhi, our intellect is having these desires, etc., for the world, which are the clouds which cover the source, cover the source of light, source of illumination. So this secret knowledge of the scriptures that has been given by Adi Shankaracharya, he says, my dear one, it will remove the shortcomings of the Kali Yuga, and they being desires, action, etc., ownership, doership, etc. Then swasuta suta we already vadasa swasuta vadasa krutvam bhavayitva mumukshum, being the seeker of liberation. Swasuta means my own son, as my own dear one. Most of the wise teachers, they consider themselves as the parent. See, we say Matru Devo, mother is the first guru, then Pitru Devo Bhava. As we grow up, father becomes our guru. Then Athithi Devo Bhava, the parents teach us how to respect a unknown person. Athithi Devo Bhava, we learn from the unknown person. First we learn from mother. It is natural. Every child learns first from mother, then from father, then from unknown people, and eventually Guru Devo Bhava, eventually the Guru. And Guru is the ultimate. He is the mother also. He has the nurturing ability of the mother. He has the strictness of the father. And can have the indifference of the Atithi. But he is the most compassionate one. And therefore, the teacher here, Adi Shankaracharya, say similarly, we are studying Jnaneshwar Maharaj's Bhagavad Gita, the Jnaneshwari, as well as Amritanubhav. Jnaneshwar Maharaj, he took Sanjeevani Samadhi at age 21. But from age 10, 11, 12 years on, once he gave the lecture on the Jnaneshwari, then he came to be known as Jnaneshwar Mauli, Mother Jnaneshwari, Mother Jnaneshwar, because of the love, compassion, nurturing ability of that young boy towards not only the youngsters, the teenagers, the youth, the married people, the old people, towards everyone. He was the mother to all, just like our Ammachi is the mother to all humanity. Young, youth, teenage, middle age, old, everyone come. She is the universal mother. But she is a woman. Here Jnaneshwar Maharaj is a man, boy, but he is considered as a mother. Every guru who is established in the self has this quality of nurturing. And that nurturing is not to make the student or to indulge more and more in desires. It is to carve out that perfection out of him. For that, lot of faith and patience is required. Guru has that patience. Guru has that faith. Shraddha Saburi. Student also needs. So with this particular verse, the Guru Maharaj, Sri Adi Shankaracharya Bhagavan, he concludes the discourse or the exposition of Vivek Chudamani to the student who had, as we saw in the beginning of this book, that the student is addressed in such a manner only when that student comes with respect and reverence, when that student comes with faith, student comes with surrender, student comes with the readiness to change. But what do we want? We want the Guru to change. We don't want to change. We want the Guru to change to our demands. They create a students' union and they want the Guru to change, and this is not the way. No student union here. Therefore, this is a one-on-one. This is one-on-one. There may be many listening, but the knowledge always passes from one to one. And that one is not decided by the teacher. That one is decided by the student. How does the student decide that he is in tune with the teacher, with the topic? By his dedication, by his application, by his faith, by his respect and reverence to the teacher, first to the scriptures, then to the God, then to the teacher, and fourthly, to his own inner ability. Without a doubt that whatever is being told here by the teacher, which is nothing but the exposition, the essence of the scriptures, it is true, and it is there in me, it is my nature. I have no doubt about it. It's only a question of time. As long as I keep applying myself, keep exposing myself to this knowledge again and again and again and again. If a river can melt a mountain and make a path for itself, why can't a seeker melt the mind, the individuality, the rock of individuality? By continuous study of the scriptures, exposing his mind and intellect to this knowledge, it will melt. Have faith, it will. Every night it does. Consciously also it will. But that faith, the melting will be directly proportional to the student's availability, the student's surrender, the student's subjective approach. The student's reverence to this knowledge. That's what makes a mediocre student into Uttam Adhikari. See? There are three types of students: Uttam Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, Adham Adhikari, and Adhama Adham Adhikari. Okay. The best is Uttam Adhikari is all the qualities that we have just given. And such a student, first time he hears, it clicks. First words, first it does no repetition required. Madhyam adhikari is he understands but he forgets. So he needs a repetition and a repetition and a repetition. Madhyam adhikari. Adham adhikari is the third type. He is sitting there listening but not understanding. And such people say, oh, this is very difficult, We appreciate, Swamiji, what work you are doing, but it is very difficult for us. We got all these responsibilities and, Adham adhikari. Adhamadham, this is below the bottom line. The chart has gone into the negative. Like our interest rates in some countries have gone beyond the negative, into the negative territory now. Below zero. So Adham is like that, below zero. What is that? He who understands exactly the opposite of what is taught. That is. These are the Ravanas and the Hiranyakashipus. You are the self. Yes, I am the self as the body. Wrong. Totally. Miss the plot. So here, neither the Adhamadham, neither the Adham, neither the Madhyam. All these type of students must be there. And teacher has to keep telling. He keeps sharing. And it is to those, as we saw before, from those students who came to, after hearing the Vivek Chudamani, those who had the glimpse of the self, they came to abide in the self, they had no doubt whatsoever, and they gave the commentary of what their experience was. Then to such people, this final advice is given. Are the other people there? Yes, they are also there. The Adham and the Adhamadham and the Madhyam, they are all there. But they will understand what they will understand. Those who need this, they will get it. And therefore you will see many times when we attend some satsang of great masters, every person feels that that great master is speaking to them directly. That is the greatness of those great masters. See. So every listener feels that the great master is speaking to them directly. With whatever mental confusions, mental drama, you have come there to the satsang, but you felt that it was meant for you. Therefore, your attention was on yourself. This disposition. So, what do we need to do in life? When we live out there in the world, the student will say something. He will say the disciple parts and the threefold understanding. But what do we need to learn at this point? That when we live in the world, live a life of love, service and sacrifice. Do it with dispassion, without expecting anything in return. Your disposition towards the world should be that of devotion. Sacrifice yourself. Don't go and seek avenues where you can be effective. No. We are not here to, we don't have a itch to do improve the world. Whatever the world is throwing at us, whatever the people come, whatever the situations come, with love and devotion and dispassion, function. With inspiration, you function out there in the world. And if you are doing all activities with inspiration and dispassion, then in the back of your mind, all these that things that we have studied, that I am the self, I am the untouched one, let the matter do what is required to be done, let the destiny unfold, let the life unfold, let the activity unfold, then such a student, like the great masters, over a period of time, this equipment, because now ownership is not there, he is contemplating in his own personal space, he is contemplating on the truth. And when he is in the world, he is dispassionate towards the multitude or the variety, and yet living in inspiration with love and compassion and service. Then such a person, while living, becomes an instrument for the God to function through that equipment. Because individuality dissolves, and in its place, the divinity functions, expresses, not functions, expresses. Equipments function, divinity expresses. This is the knack, this is the application which every seeker can employ. Now, in the next verse, how many verses left? Oh. Shishya gamana, gam gacchati, go away, goes away. The disciple parts. Iti shrutva gurur vakyam prashrayena kruta natihi satena samanugnato yayau nirmukta bandhanaha. Iti shrutva gurur vakyam prashrayena kruta natihi satena samujñato yayau nirmukta bandhanaha. Having heard these words of the Guru, the disciple saluted with all humility, and having been liberated from the bondage of relative existence, went away with the permission of the teacher. It's not you hold on to the lungi of the Guru Maharaj. I want to serve you. I don't want to part from you. I feel lost. Now, what will we do in the next? If Wednesdays, I'm going to take a day off on Wednesdays now. No, Swamiji, we'll do the next text now. Yes, we will do one text. But don't hold on to the lungi. Don't hold on to the form. Don't hold on to anything. This knowledge is not to hold on to anything. It's to make you free once and for all. So, iti shrutva, having heard these words, so this drama, as we saw in the Sri Guru Stavana on Sunday mornings, the drama of Guru-Shishya relationship. The Guru, he knows that there is only one reality. The Guru knows that there is no Shishya, there is only the Self, only the Guru Tattva. The Guru alone, just like the consciousness alone, when it expresses through the mind, at one point it expresses as the subject, at another point it expresses as the object. Same way that an infinite Guru principle, the Guru Tattva, when it expresses at the relative level, at one point it expresses as the Guru Maharaj and at one point as the Shishya, the disciple. This Guru Maharaj knows. So the drama is going on. And what is the drama? The drama is Guru is trying to teach something that can never be taught. And at the other place, the Shishya, the student, is trying to learn something that can never be learnt. And the drama is going on. Neither the Guru can teach realization, nor the student can ever learn realization. See the joke. Yet this drama is going on. So now, just like every day the drama of waking comes and goes away. Then the drama of dream comes and goes away. Now the drama of Vivek Chudamani is coming to a close. Then some other drama will begin. See? So he began, if you remember, first he talked about, as I said, the 4 types of students, but also he talked about the qualities of a fit student. And what are the 2 types of student? I told you the other day, I think it was this class or the other class, that some students are prepared before they come to study, and some people are unprepared. Out of the blue, they come to be exposed to Vedanta. Some people have done many years of yoga sadhana, mind control. They have purified their mind either through Kriya Yoga, Kundalini Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. They have practiced Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi, Nirvikalpa Samadhi Abhyas, and after that, by God's grace, they get exposed to the scriptures, and when they get exposed to Vedanta, it is like the spark being onto the dry kindled wood. Immediately it catches fire. There is no moisture in the wood. Therefore, in the traditional way, it was told, Samit Panihi Shrotriya Brahmanishtham. When we approach a teacher, the students used to carry dried twigs on their head. That was a symbolism that I have done sadhana and come. I have made my mind single pointed. I have purified my mind. I have done this sadhana. I am no longer attracted to the world. I got no more access to grind in relationships and possessions. I got nothing to do and nowhere to go in this world. Because this world does not have any charm for me anymore. So I have come to me, O Guru Maharaj, Samit Pani Shrotriya Brahmanishtam. And when the Guru Maharaj speaks the words, immediately it clicks. Uttam Adhikari. But majority of us are not like that. How we have come to Vedanta? By fluke. We have never done any yoga, we have never done any pranayam, we have never done any focusing, single pointed exercise. When we sit by ourselves, we need some distraction. Either the TV must go on, or some book must be there, or some fighting must be going on, then only sleep comes. Or thought of food comes all the time. When we are sitting by alone, we are having a greater commentary going on with ourselves than with the outer world. No preparation. Forget about meditation. Meditation, what is that? I don't know. And yet, for whatever reason, from the past karmas, you come to be exposed to such Vedantic Advait, non-dual thoughts of scriptures. So now that we have been, so these are the two types. One are the types of student who prepare themselves and then approach the teacher, and other people who do not prepare themselves and still get exposed to the Vedanta. So what do the first type of people need to do when they get up, when they hear Vedanta? Nothing. They just need to keep repeating, keep thinking in this manner every day. Begin your day with these type of thoughts. Keep them in the back of your mind. Continue. One day it will click. Does he need to do more purificatory exercises? Does he need to do yoga and pranayam? Does he need to do seva of the world? Does he need to do dhan, punya, building temples, pilgrimages? No, nothing required for this person. It may happen, it may not happen, but not required. It will be more a distraction of all these things. Then what he should do? He should just, wherever life is there, wherever he is, stay there, but continue contemplating on these type of thoughts. And it's only a matter of time that it will click. Then what about the others, sir, which we are? We did not prepare anything, and yet we are listening to Vedanta. Is there any hope for us? Yes, there is your hope for you also. Then what is that? Now that you have, as I said before, now that you have heard the scriptures, you are still attracted to, or you have still not resolved your relationships and possessions. You got exposed to Vedanta. May not be that we are understanding it completely, but we have come to it. And there is a reason that we have been exposed to it. Somewhere deep inside, this spark was there. And we have come to it. And now that we are understanding it also. But now we are having a pull on two sides. On one side is the pull of being the infinite, non-dual, blissful reality. And the other pull is the pull of relationships and possessions. This relationships and possessions is the wetness in the twigs. Is the wetness. It will create smoke. When a wet wood is given a spark, fired, it does not catch fire. Smoke comes out of it. And this is the smoke. Then there is, your eyes are hurting, your skin is itching, and So this is what happens to us. Then what do we have to do? You continue exposing to this Vedanta Shravana, and wherever life has placed you again, because the previous one, he has already left everything and come there to Vedanta. He doesn't need to sort out anything. He may be in the family, he may not be in the family, but he has sorted it out. The second type, the first type is called Krutopasti, and the second type is called Akrutopasti. He has not sorted things out in his life, but yet got exposed to Vedanta. जो भेड़चाल होती है ना, भेड़चाल, sheep mentality. Oh, I'm going to, this wonderful satsang I'm listening. Oh, come, you also listen. Listen. Oh my God, what was that? Then what do we do? As I said before, right? Continue everything. Don't try to stop anything that is going on in your life. But do it with awareness. You are aware of what the satsang is. See, even though we have talked so much, now we are at the final conclusion of the Vivek Chudamani. Are you with the most transcendental, non dual thoughts? Or are you still, after the satsang is over, the first thought is now, what is there for dinner tonight? Has our kid come back from work? Have I taken the medicine or not? See? Nothing wrong. I'm not saying anything wrong in this. But if we are still anxious, if we are still guilty of things done in the past, if we are still wanting to take control of life, then we are not purified, no? Still there is an itch to do something in life. Then how do you do it? Do it with dispassion. Continue a little bit of yoga and pranayam and some japa, so that your mind starts calming down, becomes single pointed, focused. Continue with the sadhana of Vedanta Shravana, meaning listening to the Vedanta thoughts. And while functioning in the world, be alert that you are not initiating anything in your life. Meaning you don't have a project after project, then next project, then next project. If the project, if it is happening, it's a different matter. But if you are wanting, then you have to be alert about it. Because we want to go away from we want to transcend the desires, no? So if you are having desires, this is akritopasti, the second type. We were unprepared and we became exposed to Vedanta. So now, to whatever extent is possible, live an alert life without initiating anything new in your life. Allow the nature to bring and get things done out of you. Because whether you like it or not, something will happen. But now, I have to improve the world, I have to do this, I have to do that. This slowly starts dissolving away. And in this way, we'll look at these two verses with regards to Shishya Gaman in our next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Sit in silence for half a minute. Hari Om Bro.
Hari Om.